recap from Thursday night's game between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. With that being said, thank everybody for watching my podcast. I'm your host, Sean Bishop from the Power 3 podcast. And again, thank you for watching. Last night we had an amazing game between the two New York teams, the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills, getting it in last night. I gave y'all my predictions yesterday in regards to the game, and I predicted that the Buffalo Bills were going to beat the New York Jets. But as you can see, the New York Jets won 37-31. Um, Ending the losing streak in which they had against the Buffalo Bills, where the Buffalo Bills in the last 5 meetings had won every one of those games. So now the Jets in the last 6 meetings, they are now 1-5 versus the Buffalo Bills. Again, the game last night was an amazing game. The Jets came out on top. Let's get right into the scope of the game and see what's and talk about how the game went. Like I said, I thought it was a very good game between two good teams. Both other teams came in the game 0-1, so one of the teams had to come out with the win, and the other team, of course, was gonna go out 0-2 starting the season. But and that being said, the Jets did that. They came out with the win over the Bills, 37-31. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor, he threw for 282 yards, 3 touchdowns, but couldn't get the win for the Bills. The biggest matchup in this game, which all the analysts were talking about throughout the entire game or all the way leading up to the game, was of course the matchup between Sammy Watkins and Darrelle Revis. And with that being said, Sammy Watkins had a decent game, but in the beginning of the game, Darrelle Revis got burnt from the very start of the game. When the Buffalo Bills got the ball first, they scored with a 76-yard touchdown bomb on Darrelle Revis starting the game. And then I figured, I was like, right there at that point, I thought, you know what? Yeah, the Bills are finna blow the Jets out. But to my surprise, the Jets hung in there and they got that win. Ryan Fitzpatrick was 24 for 34 in completions and passes for 374 yards and 1 touchdown. Matt Forte had 30 attempts. He rushed 30 times for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Whoever had Matt Forte in their fantasy league this week, they got mad numbers from Matt Forte. They got mad numbers from Matt Forte. The Jets had one 100-yard rusher and two 100-yard receivers, with that being Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. Had an amazing game last night against those Buffalo Bills. You just can't take. Eric Decker had 6 catches for 126 yards and a touchdown. The QB rating for Tyrod Taylor was 112.8. For Ryan Fitzpatrick is 116.5. With that being said, they were pretty much even throughout the entire game. Like I said, Forte had 30 rushing attempts for 100 yards, with the longest being 12. Shady McCoy, I'm just going to be honest with you. I feel like Shady McCoy, ever since he's been in Buffalo, ever since he's left Philly, he has not had the production in which he had while he was in Philly. He had 15 rushing attempts for only 59 yards. His longest was 24, but of course he did not see the end zone in that game. Again, like I said, the top two receivers in the game for the Jets were Decker and Brandon Marshall. Anua did an amazing game. He was six catches for 92 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but he put up 92 yards. He was 8 yards shy from 100 yards. So the Jets almost had 3 players with 100 yards receiving. For the Buffalo Bills, they had Goodwin, who had 5 catches, 2 receptions, 5 total. He had 112 yards, longest being 84, and he did have 1 touchdown. Goodwin was the one, if I'm not mistaken, he had the big catch on Darrelle Revis in the beginning of the game that sparked that whole game, in which I thought uh, I thought that the Buffalo was going to win that game. Tyrod Taylor it was to Marcus Goodwin for 84 yards. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. I thought it was 74. It's 84 yards for a touchdown to Goodwin. to start the beginning of that was their very first possession of that game. Again, I came up short. I'm starting week 2 already in the loss column, with the with the Jets beating Buffalo. Therefore, that made me put an L in the loss column already. Y'all know I was 9-7 last week, so this week, being that I lost to the Jets, um, uh, uh, being that Buffalo lost to the Jets, should I say, it puts me in a bad situation. Um, this week coming up. But since we're here, let me go ahead and get it started and start off with the since we're trying to get it started. Let's go ahead and start it off with the predictions for Sunday's game. So, with that being said, let me start off with the first game of Sunday. The San Francisco 49ers play going up against the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, of course, are 0-1, who lost the first game of the season against the Denver Broncos. So they're hosting the San Francisco 49ers at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers with this game. I don't feel like San Francisco, even though they're 1-0, I don't think, even though the quarterback for San Francisco did an amazing job. I don't see Cam Newton allowing them to go 0-2 to start the season. So I'm gonna pick the Carolina Panthers over the San Francisco 49ers, and they're playing in San Francisco. So I'm looking at a score of 35-21. 35-21. The second game of the Sunday will be the Baltimore Ravens visiting the Cleveland Browns, which of course RG3 is going to be out. Cleveland, of course, lost to my beloved Philadelphia Eagles. They play at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time. Baltimore Ravens, they're 1-0. With this game, I'm gonna give the game to Baltimore, because Cleveland, I still think they're gonna have to try and figure out some things. They're without RG3 this weekend, so they still gonna have to figure some things out. So with that being said, I'm gonna say the Baltimore Ravens gonna win this game 24-14 against the Cleveland Browns. Next game we have is the Tennessee Titans visiting the Detroit Lions. The Tennessee Titans, of course, are 0-1. They're playing at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time on CBS versus the Detroit Lions, who came out and squeezed out a win last week. Matthew Stafford had a great game. Tennessee did well. They really did well. It was a close game with that game as well. But I'm gonna give the edge to the Detroit Lions, even though I think this is gonna be a close game. I'm gonna give it to the Detroit Lions with the score of 32-28. Detroit Lions beating the Tennessee Titans. The next game we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 1-0, versus the Houston Texans, who is also 1-0. So they're visiting Houston. The game is at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central on CBS. It's one of the early games. Kansas City, they came back from a 28-3, 28-10, or 28 to something like that deficit, and got the win last week over um, who was that they played? I forget who exactly they played last week, but they got the win. And with that being said, I feel like they're gonna continue that win streak against Houston, and that's the game is going to be the score is going to be 28 to 20, 21, 28 to 21, Kansas City. Moving on, I'm sorry about that. My phone was ringing. I'm gonna ignore that for a second. We're moving on to the next game, which is the Miami Dolphins versus the New England Patriots. Of course, the Miami Dolphins are 0-1, playing the 1-0 New England Patriots, who got the win last week without Tom Brady. They had Garoppolo come in the game and do an amazing job for the Patriots. So with that being said, I don't think Miami has, with Ryan Tannehill, I don't think they have enough firepower to go up against that New England Patriots defense. So with that being said, that game is at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time on CBS. That's an early game. New England Patriots beat the Miami Dolphins 35 to 17, 35-17. The New Orleans Saints go visit the New York Giants at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox, 12 p.m. Central Time. And the New Orleans Saints, as y'all know, they lost to the Oakland Raiders at the very last minute of the game with the 2-point conversion by the Oakland Raiders. So it was a good game, though. And the New York Giants, they beat the Dallas Cowboys in Cowboys Stadium in Dallas because of just a bad choice by the receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. So with that game could go either way actually. But I'm gonna go with The New York Giants. They're playing in New York. I got to go with the New York Giants, even though Drew Brees threw for 400 yards last week. I'm just gonna go with the New York Giants. I'm just gonna take a chance on that. With that being said, the New York Giants barely went over the New Orleans Saints by a score of 21-17. 21-17. Next game we have is the Cincinnati Bengals going over to the Steel Curtain, while the Pittsburgh Steelers, both Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, are 1-0. They play at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time on CBS. Um, Cincinnati looked good last week. Andy Dalton, they came back from a deficit as well and got the win. Pittsburgh, of course, they mopped the Washington Redskins. It wasn't even close. So with that being said, I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to come out and get the win. Ben Roethlisberger is looking like the Ben of old. So and then it's hard to stop AB. AB is a monster over there on the Steelers team. So it's going to be hard to stop him. So I'm going looking at the Steelers to win. Um, 42-28 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Then we have an NFC conference game. The Dallas Cowboys visit the Washington Redskins at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time on Fox. Washington Redskins and both the Dallas Cowboys are 0-1. I already told you who beat Dallas. That was, of course, the Giants. And the Pittsburgh Steelers mopped the Washington Redskins. With this game, in Washington, I believe Dallas this time. I do feel like Dak Prescott is going to do a lot better than he did last week. So I feel like he's going to get the win for the Dallas Cowboys, even though they're playing in Washington. So I look at Dallas Cowboys winning this game 28-24 versus the Washington Redskins. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Arizona to play the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are 0-1. They lost a close one last week to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Carson Wentz. Jameis Winston had an amazing game last week. They did an amazing job to get that win. But they're going to Arizona, so it's going to be hard for me to pick Tampa Bay to win. So I'm going to pick the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a score of 28-24 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm going with Arizona in that game. The next game we have is the Seattle Seahawks versus the LA Rams. And y'all know the LA Rams, they're playing at home. This is their first home game since being moved back to LA. And you know the LA Rams got embarrassed, literally embarrassed by the San Francisco 49ers last week by putting up a big goose egg on the board. So with that being said, I feel like they still got some things that they need to work out. That game is at 4:05 Eastern Time, 3:05 Central Time on Fox. That's the same with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game too. I forgot to tell you, but the Seattle Seahawks are going to go in there and make the LA Rams start the LA Rams season off 0-2. With Russell Wilson going in there and dominating against those LA Rams, I just don't see the Rams being there. If they couldn't stop the San Francisco 49ers, I know they're not going to be able to stop Russell Wilson in that high-powered offense. So with that being said, the Seattle Seahawks will beat the Rams 35-14. 35-14. Next game is at Indianapolis Colts versus the Denver Broncos. The Indianapolis Colts is 0-1 versus the 1-0 Denver Broncos, who defeated the Carolina Panthers the first game of the NFL season. With that being said, that game is at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:25 p.m. Central Time on CBS. It's the late game. Indianapolis just doesn't have what it takes to beat the Denver Broncos. I don't feel that Denver Broncos defense is still the Denver Broncos defense from the Super Bowl of earlier this year. So with that being said, I don't think Andrew Luck has a chance against that defense. They're going to be bringing DeMarcus Ware is going to be bringing it. It's going to be a good game, but I don't think Indianapolis has what it takes to beat the Denver Broncos. So the Denver Broncos going to come out with the win 24-17 versus the Indianapolis Colts. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons visiting the Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders, who was 1-0. The Atlanta Falcons, who lost that close game last week and is now 0-1. Their game is at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:25 p.m. Central Time on CBS. And Atlanta's playing in Oakland, like I stated. This game should be a real good game. Matty Ice had a good game. They started off slow, but they got back in the game, but they end up coming up short in that game. But Matty Ice, I think he's going to redeem himself in this game against the Oakland Raiders. So I'm picking the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Oakland Raiders tomorrow in Oakland, and that's a hard thing to do to beat them in Oakland. Do know that's a hard feat, but I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take Atlanta over Oakland with the score of 28-21. The next game we have is the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the San Diego Chargers. Both of them are winless to start the season off. That game is at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:25 Central Time on CBS. San Diego had a great game. They did well. Philip Rivers had a real good game. He did well against them. Jacksonville had a good game as well. This game could go either way, but I'm going to take San Diego because they're playing at home. I feel like Philip Rivers is going to do what it takes to get the win for their home team so they won't go 0-2. And unfortunately, Jacksonville, that makes Jacksonville going 0-2 to start this 2016-17 season. With that being said, I think the score is going to be San Diego 21, Jacksonville 17. Moving on to the what is that the last game? Yeah, that's the last game. The late game on Sunday night will be the Green Bay Packers visiting the Minnesota Vikings. And Green Bay is 1-0, and so is the Minnesota Vikings being 1-0. That game is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Central Time on NBC. That is the late game. I will be bringing that game to you. I will be doing a recap on that game as well. So be sure to tune back in on the Power 3 podcast in regards to that late game between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings in this game, we don't know if Sam Bradford is going to get the start. But Sean Hill did an amazing job for the Vikings last week, so I don't know why they would even attempt to start Sam Bradford. There's no need. If Sean Hill is doing a great job until Sam Bradford learns that playbook, I feel like they should stick with what they know, and that's Sean Hill right now. So I feel like we don't know exactly. I feel like they should stay with Sean Hill, but we don't know if that's the case yet. I haven't heard word whether or not they're gonna start Sam Bradford or Sean Hill for this game. Green Bay, of course, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now with Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, and they're just a beast of a team. It's going to be hard for Green Bay to get a win against Minnesota. I feel. Because Minnesota has to do some things anyway because Adrian Peterson had a horrible game last week. He didn't even rush for. I don't even think he rushed over for 60 yards in the game last week. So Minnesota definitely has to do some things. Cordell Patterson needs to get some more touches, and they need to get to him a little bit more in that game. But that is going to be a really good game between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. But to make my prediction, I'm going to pick the Minnesota Vikings over the Green Bay Packers by a score of 35-32, with the Minnesota Vikings winning that game. And then on Monday night, can't forget about Monday Night Football. Of course, I'm going to speak on that game on Monday as well. I'm going to do a recap on that game too, so stay tuned. But I'll speak on that later on Sunday in regards to the Monday night game. But it's the Philadelphia Eagles, my beloved Philadelphia Eagles, going against the Chicago Bears. Philadelphia, who is 1-0, against the 0-1 Chicago Bears, who lost by a few points like a lot of the teams did on week one of the NFL season, started the NFL season. Jay Cutler is still out there trying to do what he can out there in Chicago, but you gotta look at what Philly is doing out there with Carson Wentz as the starting rookie quarterback. This man threw for over 300 or 200, almost 300 yards with no interceptions and 2 touchdowns. So of course, I mean, without being said, Philadelphia, I'm definitely going for. They're going to get the win against the Chicago Bears. Chicago, even though they're playing in Chicago, I feel Chicago was going to go 0-2. My beloved Eagles are going to go 2-0. But I'm not going to give you my prediction. And my prediction is the Eagles going to win. I will tell you what the score will be later on. So you're going to have to tune in at a later on Sunday or Monday, probably Monday, I should say. You're going to have to tune in on Monday before the game to hear what I think the score will be against the score will be for the Philadelphia Eagle and the Chicago Bears game. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in to the Power 3 podcast. This is your host, Sean Bishop, and I'm here uh, giving you my predictions throughout the entire NFL season. Again, I thank y'all so much for joining me. I thank y'all for watching. I appreciate it. Please tune in on Sunday to hear the recaps of the games in which I predicted and things of that nature. I will also be back on here to do the college games of the top 25 games in the NCAA football. So again, thank y'all. Stay tuned for that as well. So again, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all for watching. This is your boy Sean Bishop. Y'all have a great day, a great weekend, and I'll see y'all in a minute. Peace.